Load. Oh, forgot to make America Great hat again. Gosh dang it. Ah. For the love of fucking Christ. The fuck's going on? Music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on the Evil Hippie Network and Rumble and YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, both on Rumble and or YouTube. We like Rumble better, but hey, YouTube's keeping us on, and I don't know why. World record on that. Lead story, and we'll get to this right off the top after we do the others. Of all the things, the tragedy of Chloe Cole, where at 13 or 14, 15 years old, she had her breast cut off here in California. Thought she wanted to become a boy. Now she's trying to salvage what's left of her womanhood. After that, and we've heard the stories, man, on and on and on. Now today at the Olympics, a man beats the crap out of a woman in 45 seconds. She has to quit. She said she quit to save her life. She got hit so hard that she had to, I think it was 46 seconds. And she's done. Her Olympic dreams up in flames. We'll get to that in a second. We're going to have the first part on the crime and props, the new Prop 36, to correct Kamala Harris's and Tony Thurman's, Gavin Newsom's, and the bunch. Absolutely ridiculous Prop 47, which basically made criminality and vagrancy illegal in California in 2014. They had a debate amongst that and Tony Thurman, who wants Sheriff Chad in jail for endorsing Donald J. Trump. They had an interesting bit on crime and education on Fox 11 with Marla Taylor and Alex Michelson. Hopefully we'll get to the crime part. That's the first part. Maybe we'll do the education tomorrow. The Tucker Carlson, Senator Mike Lee from Utah interview, which went about 2 hours, which was absolutely fascinating. And we'll get into some of that too. I think we'll do some of it today and then finish up on it maybe tomorrow. We'll see how it goes on time-wise. But that, plus Putin, of all people, are absolutely fleecing us. We give them, Biden gives them what? a couple of journalists, and we give them back some of the most heinous criminals, murderers in the history of the world. Again, I don't know if this is Joe trying to sabotage the Harris campaign and for what was done with him. You know, Joe may not have it all together. And I think that's not in question. But he hasn't completely lost it. He wasn't, 50 years in the Senate, vice president, and president of the United States, and still there. I mean, even though he's in cognitive decline, he's still got a few of his marbles left, even for a little bit. And we got absolutely fleeced. I don't know what, and we'll dig into this maybe a little deeper tomorrow. We made a plea deal with terrorists that we've been holding for 20 years down in Guantanamo Bay. Some of the things we do are seemingly absolutely incredible on some of this stuff. Maybe one day we'll get our S together. But this story was absolutely terrifying. Started breaking, well, I heard about it this morning when it broke of that, and then everybody was running the clips of this young lady from Italy, her dad trained her as a fighter. Okay, we know. And it's a scientific fact. We've known it since time, all of recorded history. Men are physically stronger than women. We can beat the crap out of most women. We're physically stronger than that. Hey, I didn't make this stuff up. If you want to believe in God, Mother Nature, magic dust, whatever, it's just the way it is. As she said, she had to quit 45 seconds in to save my life. First punch on her nose, and she said I felt it dripping. That means she could feel her nose was busted right off the get-go. How we're enduring this kind of idiocracy, I mean, this didn't happen overnight, but sans the Last Supper with all the trannies and gays and whatever it was that everybody was all upset on at the beginning of the Olympics. But we've been on this assault for decades. We've had it in our schools. Tony Thurmond, which will come up with the debate with Chad when we get to that. This whole thing, like with the trans thing and the identification and the grooming and not letting parents know. Or then threatening, even Elon Musk, who should know better, but they had him giving one of his kids, what is he got, 27 of them or something? I mean, he can afford it. They started that, well, would you rather have a live son or a dead daughter or the other way around? Who knows? Whichever way they're trying to do it. It's insanity of what we allow in this country anymore. The Olympics have become a farce. I haven't even watched any of them because this is not Olympics. This is not what it was supposed to be. this is not amateur competition where see who's the best of basically teenagers or very young adults in the most cases before if they turn professional or whatever. I mean, this might be their swan song, depending on the sport you are. They made a total travesty of it. And this is all designed to control you, to beat you down, to make you submit. I mean, they made Elon Musk submit to giving his kid hormone blockers. They made Chloe Cole's parents submit to having her breast cut off at 15 years old. And now she's living that horrific event. She's even saying now, I will never be a true woman. And it just, it breaks your heart, but how do we as a society, how do we as a country, how do we as a world allow this kind of stuff? It's beyond stupid. Female boxer yells, "This is unjust," and falls to her knees in tears as she quits against biologically male. No, she was fighting against a man. I didn't care what he's doing or he's taking this hormone or even if he got his parts cut off. She was fighting a male. It's a wonder she didn't, have a debilitating injury or die. Boxing's a very violent sport. You can die at doing that. Many people have. And when you have somebody, that's why you have weight classifications. That's why we had, we don't make 125-pound guys fight 225-pound guys because we know what the result is at. That's the equivalent of what we had going in. Even though they're the same weight, welterweights or whatever it was, this guy was physically so much stronger than her that it is not a competition. It is basic. This goes back to the lion's den. We're throwing that young lady into the lion's den, saying, well, is she going to get eaten by the lion? Fortunately, she had enough sense, and it was only really 2 good punches that connected in 45 seconds. After the second one, she said, I don't want to die in the ring, which I'm glad, 100% glad she made that decision. Because if she would have stuck that out, I hate to think of what would have been the result. She could have been permanently injured, if not killed, in that bout with that guy. Just in the first round. If she was feeling that after 45 seconds. There was nothing good going to come out of that going any further. It's just like I say, thank heavens that she pulled out of it then. Then later on in the press conference, it was revealed in the Daily Mail article that she was not making any judgments of that. And hey, everybody can do their own thing, but somebody's got to start saying something. And she did. It's right there as she's doing it, and it's quoted in there, she's falling to her knees saying, "This is unjust." And she's exactly right. I wish she would have further expounded on that and not been afraid. or whatever the reason was, she didn't want to expand on that or say, I'm not going to judge it. Well, yes, we should be judging it. We should be getting some sanity back in society, whether it's the United States, world, or all points in between. You know, if Musk is going to have us up to Mars, we need to put some rules in place, some sane rules. Because if we're going to burn up the planet or we're all going to die of diesel smoke down here or whatever, and we're all going to fly to Mars or whatever Musk has up his sleeve. In any society, you have to have some decorum, some rules of conduct, rule of law, so people just don't go over and say, well, you know, I got what Roy has. I want that. Just blow him away in the head and walk away with no consequences. That Karine was rocked by 2 punches from Khalif, who had been banned from major boxing contests before the Olympics, and said the savage force of the blows made it impossible to continue. So this guy had been banned from women's boxing before, because there is some people with at least a tad of common sense. Not even that, a little bit of caring about your fellow man or woman. Nobody had anybody, well, not nobody, I take that back, bad choice of words. The people that let this man step in the ring with this woman and let her savagely beat her for 45 seconds in the name of the Olympics, I don't know where we are. I mean, really. Ladies, I don't know why you're not I don't know why you're not marching in the streets. All of you, all of the ones that are all specially, that are all hung up on the abortion deal and all that, and against following the rule of law and the Constitution of the United States. It's almost hard to wrap your head around. It really is. You know, and there was a little bit of uproar about the Last Supper and all that and the depiction of that. But that was mainly from, lack of a better word, the religious crowd. But again, the Olympics are not about the Olympics are about fair competition between countries' best athletes are going to put forward. Boxing, track and field, triathlon, whatever else going on in the Olympics, in the Summer Games. That's what it should be about, fair competition. We're going to put a set of rules together. This is the rules and decorum you have to have and qualifications you have. The qualification should not be men are going to get into the boxing ring with women and beat the crap out of them. I mean, how we got down to this part, how did we sink this low into society? I mean, I was around what was in 72, when the terrorists went in and shot the Israelis. And I mean, as dark a day as that was, we're working on trying to do the same thing. I mean, what if this young lady would have been, and there was a good chance, if she wouldn't have had the good enough sense to say, hey, we go any further, I might be off this planet Earth. And that's basically what she said. She said, I thought I was going to die. I mean, fortunately, in this place, and they checked her out, she seems to be okay or didn't suffer any debilitating. And that was just 2 punches. Imagine if this guy would have worked her over for 2 or 3 rounds and then boom. That's why we have rules like this. That's why men do not compete against women. That's the main reason. We are physically stronger. We can overpower you. We can hurt you. We can kill you doing these sorts of things. So let's knock it off. Can we bring just a tad of sanity back into things? Geez, is that too much to ask? We should never see this scene. Well, they were doing this, in the UFC fighting or something. Same thing. I mean, poor young lady damn near got killed. Like she said, her dad had taught her to be a warrior, and then that's a mentality you have to be a boxer in these blood sports. I get that part. But geez Louise. Do we have to have somebody die in the boxing ring or something before we finally knock this off? And she's you don't get that many chances to be an Olympian. You got a very short window of that, unless you're even the very, very best, maybe 1, 2, 2, 3, 4 maximum games you're ever going to compete in. What they come up, well, it used to be 4 years. I think they do 2 or so. I don't know. I haven't followed it in a while. Because of stuff like this. This kind of stuff is what we should be talking about in our politics. Not with the shade of skin tone brown, and I'll go with both of them. And I got the MAGA hat on, and I'm going to wear it at least until November 5th, after they shot Trump. But man, we got to get off of this whole scene we've been creating. There's differences between the sexes. There's differences between people. Everybody has different talents and abilities and qualifications and desire and motivation and everything else. Everybody is not equal. Like I said, I'd never play linebacker for the Chicago Bears. I'm not going to be the next second coming of Dick Butkus, the greatest linebacker, in my view, in the history of the world. That guy was savage. But anyway, just the physical side. I could train, I could lift weights 24/7, 365, probably do steroids and everything else. Never going to get to that. So should we dumb down the standards to get into the NFL because I want to play linebacker for the Chicago Bears? No. That just wasn't in the cards. You're going to have to figure out how to do something else. Switching gears, this came out. This is Sheriff Chad, as I call him, Chad Bianco, the sheriff of Riverside County. He came out, about 2-3 weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago. And he made a video, I don't know, sitting in his car, sitting in his sheriff's uniform. And he said, I'm voting for the felon. He should have had a MAGA hat on. Maybe we should take up a donation and get Sheriff Chad a MAGA hat. Our superintendent, Tony Thurman, superintendent of schools in California, had a big uproar, said there should be an investigation. You can't wear the uniform while you're doing political activities. And in most cases, if you're on the clock, if you're a city employee or whatever, you're a deputy sheriff, yeah, it's a violation. You cannot be wearing your uniform and talking about political stuff or whatever. Now, if you're off the clock, as far as I know and understand, it's fair game. We went through this in 2018. Actually, I don't know if it was Sheriff Chad or some of his supporters. He was running against the incumbent Stan Sniff at the time. And Stan was doing the same thing when he was sheriff. He was dressed out in his uniform, making ads or appearances or whatever. And Bianco and or his crew filed a complaint, and they said, he's allowed to do that. We went through this in 18 because that was a very contentious race. So, not to relive history, but just to set the table. So, since the sheriff is not an employee of the county of Riverside, he is the elected sheriff, a politician, and I know he's probably cringing when I say it, but that's his title. We elected him to be the Riverside County Sheriff for the 2.5 million people or whatever it is of Riverside County. He's an elected person. That uniform is part and parcel, his uniform, the sheriff's uniform, not the undersheriff, not the assistant sheriff, not the captain, sergeant, or deputy sheriff, but the sheriff. That is part of his garb for his office as being the county sheriff. So as far as I know, and my recollection, and I'm no lawyer to give legal advice, but as my recollection of that went on 6 years ago, when it was brought up by either supporters or Sheriff Chad himself on Stan Sniff, and all the legal opinions I remember at the time said, hey, Sheriff Sniff can wear the uniform. He's sheriff 24/7, 365, as long as he's duly elected and holding the office. That's it. So Marla Tellez and Alex Michelson had Tony Thurman and Sheriff Chad Bianco in their studios at Fox 11 the other day, and they were debating about the crime deal, and they did get into education, which I think we'll save to tomorrow because it's about 20 minutes long. But they got into this issue and the crime part. So let's kick her off. So we got a couple minutes. We'll set the card tables up before we get to KMET here in a second. Here's the beginning. Sheriff Chad and Tony Thurman on Fox 11. Hopefully, here we go.
Well, that's Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco in a now viral post on Instagram from back in June, where he endorsed Donald Trump for president. Now, shortly after Trump was convicted in his New York hush money trial. That video, Bianco in his uniform, eliciting calls from Superintendent of Public Instruction Tony Thurman for an investigation and a debate.
Making an endorsement in a state taxpayer-funded uniform and badge would seem to violate the rules that we have. If the sheriff wants to be governor, I think that there ought to be a debate.
Well, with more, we are joined by Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco and California's Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here.
So we're going to be joining the Mighty Met KMET here in about a minute or two. So just wanted to set that up. Tony Thurmond, well, it seems to that and the other. Now, I don't know. We probably do pay for his uniform, but that's part of the deal. We give him a car allowance. We give him a salary, which I said he shouldn't have got the raise. But he did. The Board of Supervisors did it. Okay, what do we pay him about? Probably about $300, probably about $400,000, maybe $500, depending what his car allowance and his benefits are. They were paying him over $300,000, what, $320 or something like that, just base salary, and the ridiculous benefits and all the perks they get. But that's what they get. We elected the Board of Supervisors. They approved all this stuff. And if we're paying, if that's part of his compensation package that we're buying and taking his uniform to the dry cleaner or whatever, hey, that's what it is. We can fight that out. You fight that out at the Board of Supervisors because they're the ones that hold the purse strings. Riverside County Board of Supervisors, the Fab Five. But like I said, when we go down and we fought this out, or that was a big issue in 2018 in the Riverside County Sheriff's race when Stan Sniff ran against Sheriff Chad, or was the incumbent, and Chad was the challenger in 18. And they made that allegation, it's the same allegation that Tony Thurmond made.
50 seconds, 50 seconds.
So it's all been well documented of what's going on. So we'll pick up with the actual debate, at least on the crime part of this and the uniform of the crime part. I think that goes about 10 minutes. So we'll kind of break that down on the rest of it. And then we'll see. We'll hold the education one. Hopefully we'll get to that tomorrow, but may have one of these more Olympic stories going on, or we're getting fleeced by Putin on the prisoner trading, or whatever's going on at the time. Something else. Well, it keeps you up at night or awake during
10 seconds.
Right? Oh, it's fun, no matter how you cook it.
Today, IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMEP.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Bit, 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience in the Evil Uppy Network and Rumble. Check us out, subscribe, type in IE Newswire on Rumble. Man, this story went today, and we covered it a lot in the first half hour. Those of you on KMET, check us out on IE Newswire, again on Rumble, YouTube, or if you have to, the Evil FB Network. This is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, not really, but the words you should use on there, we shouldn't be saying on the air. But young lady, Olympian boxer, had to quit to save her life after 45 seconds. And this guy only connected 2 good shots in 45 seconds. She hit her knees and said, I'm done. This is unjust. She felt she was in fear of her life. She quit to save her life, as she said. Having men, we would remember that it wasn't, what was it a while ago, the UFC fight? They had the same thing. They had a man in there with a woman. And I mean, it's a wonder he didn't kill her. And I mean, thank God she had the good enough sense to stop, to say, hey, because if she'd have went 2 or 3 rounds and took the punishment and did all that, and then he'd have hit her a good one, she could have been permanently disabled and or killed. Boxing is a blood sport. People have died in it. People will die from it in the future. It's not table tennis. Sometimes you wonder if we're going to get any sense. Vladimir Putin, Supreme Czar of Russia, fleeced us again. And I don't know if Joe's clowning us because of this whole Kamala Harris deal. We traded a couple journalists and some other, and a can of soup for some of the biggest, meanest, murderous spies, sellouts, counterintelligence agents we had held. We made a deal, cut a deal with some terrorists we've been holding 20 years in Guantanamo. Now we're not, they're gonna live out the rest of their lives on our dime. The insanity is something else. But as we started, we got the preview of Superintendent of Public Instruction, the odious evil, Tony Thurmond, and Chad Bianco were on Fox News 11, I think, yesterday with Marla Tellez and Alex Michelson. Tony Thurmond had accused Chad of endorsing the great Donald J. Trump for president. He was in his uniform when he did it. We went through that in 2018 when Stan Sniff was incumbent and Chad was running. It was him and his forces, and they were accusing Stan of the same thing, and they said, hey, he's elected sheriff, he's not an employee. That's part of his uniform as an elected official. He's allowed to wear it 24/7, 365, no matter what he's doing. So you see Sheriff Chad, and I'm glad he did. He wore his uniform in studio with that, talking about the politics. We had Prop 47, brought to you by the great, and I'm using that facetiously, at the time, Attorney General Kamala Harris, which called it the Save Neighborhoods and Schools Act, that said, criminals, you can steal less than $950, and we're not going to do anything to you. Vagrants, you got an income stream going. Now we have Prop 36 on that Sheriff Chad, D.A. Hestron, Jason Anderson, Don Barnes, and Todd Spitzer from down Orange County, and many others all across the state, put on to fix the bad parts that we've all been over on that. So first we're going to talk about that, then the whole deal on the uniform and Chad and the accusations. Tony Thurmond says, well, he shouldn't be endorsing that or doing political stuff. So here we go with more of the great debate on Fox 11 between Sheriff Chad and the odious Tony Thurmond.
Taking the time out, we made it happen. Good to have you. We're going to start with that very incident. I'll start with you, Superintendent Thurmond. Yes. Where does that investigation stand? Have you gone to the Attorney General of California, Rob Bonta, to open an investigation into the sheriff?
My understanding is that there are some who are looking into it, but again, we're here because I was just struck that you'd have someone who would say that they want a felon in the White House, and as many of the issues that we're talking about have to deal with public safety, just a concern that someone would advocate for a person who tried to overthrow our government, and in doing so, cause the harm of many people, including police officers. And so that's how we got here, and it's a big concern.
Sheriff, I see you're wearing the uniform today. Was that a bit of a...
Yeah.
It actually is. There are many things that are concerning to me that he just said, but the biggest one was him coming online and trying to somehow, truly, it was him get a little bit of fame for his governor run off of a viral video. And the disturbing thing for me was that we have the person in charge of education in our state that failed to educate himself, do his homework about whether or not it was true or not that I violated some law. And then he went on national or local news saying that I did. And he repeatedly, social media, saying that I have violated these laws. So the truth of the matter is, I did not. I have spoken to numerous investigators over the last 5 years because there's always people that don't know the law and they complain and they file complaints. I have spoken to local investigators and federal investigators. And regardless of what he thinks, the sheriff does not apply to that law or that rule. And I am exempt because I'm an elected official, and specifically the office of sheriff does not apply to that. A chief of police would, one of my employees would, and then a technical part of the law that, of course, he didn't educate himself on, is that I am not considered an officer or an employee of the sheriff's department. I am the elected sheriff of Riverside County, and I am separate from the employees of the organization.
If I
Your
could,
thoughts on that?
If I could,
And
As far as I know, Sheriff Chad is 111% right. Everything I've heard, Tony Thurmond is trying to backtrack it, and he is. This is why half the kids in the state of California, and only a third, less than half of the kids are at grade level in the state of California in reading. Only a third are at grade level, K through 12. This is what Tony Thurmond has been a disaster, and we deserve it because we've elected him twice to be superintendent of public instruction. We in California deserve this. We deserve to make our kids stupid because we keep electing ding-dongs like Tony Thurmond and Corey Jackson and Gavin Newsom and Maxine Waters and Eloise Reyes. We keep electing ding-dongs. See what the Thurmond has to say.
the fact that he's wearing the uniform today.
Again, anyone can make a mistake, but when the sheriff doubled down as an elected official to say that it's his badge, his uniform, he can do with it what he wants, I think it's disrespectful to the people who elect us. There are rules. It's not about whether or not you're...
And the rules, ding dong, Thurmond says he can wear it. He can go up on stage with Trump with a MAGA hat on, with that uniform as far as I can tell. And it's perfectly legal. What part of it, Tony? You may have a lot of degrees or whatever, but you are a very unintelligent, uneducated individual because you don't understand the law. No wonder over half of our kids are not at grade level in reading, and only a third are at grade level at math and going down. And you closed the schools, and you made sure they were stupider every year you've been in there.
Elected or you're a rank and file officer, there are clearly established rules that say that public officials, elected officials, don't engage in politics when we are on the clock, when we are working. And that's all we were saying.
There are no laws that say that. And the fact that we're sitting here talking about things that are not true, and now I have told everyone, including yourself, that you are completely wrong. You have accused me of committing a crime multiple times on television and your social media. Anytime you want to fix it and apologize, I'll wait.
There is no open investigation into the sheriff.
My office doesn't have the power to do an investigation. We're reaching out to state agencies that can. And this is not the first time that this has happened. There's been a LA County sheriff who did the same thing, made a political endorsement in uniform, and he took it back. And you doubled down on it, and that just says a lot about
There are things like the
how you
Hatch
approach
Act
it.
and other things where you're not supposed to do official work.
So I will let people bury themselves as much as they want. And when it keeps getting worse and worse and worse, then I'll show you the letters. I guarantee you, if he complained, which I think he did, they won't tell me, they block out the address, but he got the same letter that they send me and say, this is what we gave them. And it explains that the office of sheriff is different.
Let's talk about public safety, which you know a lot about. You do too, as well, of course. But you, as sheriff, you're very much against Prop 47. There is a ballot on the upcoming election in November to amend Prop 47, which for our viewers, a little refresher, that this reclassifies non-violent crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. And on the ballot this November will be Prop 36, which is the amendment to Prop 47. Right. Why is this the answer, in your belief, to solving the crime public safety issue?
This isn't the end-all answer, but we know from a public safety standpoint, and really the voters know, 80% of the population of California knows that Prop 47 has been the beginning of the end. Really was AB 109, but Prop 47 then started the ball rolling. The beginning of the end for public safety in California, whether you're talking about homeless, whether you're talking about drugs, whether you're talking about theft, all of those things drastically increased. And you can look and see the drastic increase since 47. Everyone knows what those consequences were going to be. We told the legislature what those consequences were going to be, and we've tried to get it fixed. We know now that we were 100% lied to by our state government specifically our Attorney General, who happens to be the person he's endorsing for president now. And we were sold a bill of goods with the Safe Streets and Safe Schools initiative, which we know now had nothing to do with safe streets and safe schools. It was about decriminalization. It was about no accountability for criminal behavior, raising the limits of theft, no accountability for drugs. It should be a crime of what we have done with drugs and the homeless in that we cannot get them into services now, and that was all taken away by Prop 47.
So this effort to reform Prop 47, now Prop 36, has been supported by some liberal Democrats, including the mayor of San Francisco, the mayor of San Jose. Do you support it?
First thing I want to say, just in correction, Sheriff, the legislature didn't pass Prop 47.
The people
of California
in
did.
an overwhelming vote.
But to that point, people are tired of having their cars broken into, their homes and their businesses. I myself have had 2 different times a car broken into, my daughter's car stolen. We do need accountability. And I've been on a lot of police ride-alongs. I come from a law enforcement family. I was raised by 2 police officers. My brother's retired police. And as I talk to officers, they talk about arresting the same person twice in the same night. Yes, there has to be reform. We're taking a look at Prop 36. I'm working with a lot of legislators right now as we speak to create real consequences for those who commit retail theft, to go after those rings who are helping to steal the stuff and then sell it again on eBay and other places. We need change, but just locking people up is not the solution. We need intervention programs. And as governor, I would start a campaign immediately to put 2,000 more officers on the streets of California.
Oh, I'll put 2,000 more streets on the officer. Again, expanding the state police force. Wrong, wrong, wrong. That's what they want to do. They either want to get us where they can appoint, where Tony Thurmans of the world can appoint our county sheriffs. They want to take our ability to elect Sheriff Chad or whomever we want, whoever we decide. They want to run it. It took you 10 freaking years, Tony, and then we had to get 36 on the ballot. And now we're trying to put a legislature and work with the legislature. The legislature put in a poison pill that if Prop 36 passes, all the things that we're going to do or we're going to do or we're going to pass go out the window. You're playing politics with it. Just like Kamala did and wrote the Safe Schools and Safe Neighborhoods Act when you knew damn well that it was going to increase crime. And you know what, Tony? You got to have that threat of incarceration, because how in the hell are you going to get them? Because you can't force them into treatment, Tony. $27 billion on 63. Ask your buddy Newsom about it, and you probably supported it too. $27 billion. And you said back that we voted for in 2004, and you promised all this was going to be fixed in 5 years in 2009, and it isn't even off the charts worse. Just like your education system, you bag of dingbat. You can come down here and Dr. K and Moreno Valley Unified School District could be over here kissing your ass. And they were. And that's why our schools, you know what, Tony? Only 1 out of 3 kids are at grade level in reading, and only 1 out of 6. You didn't do a damn thing when you came down here 2 years ago when Mr. Y'all brought you down here, and we're in worse shape than we were then. So why should we believe you, you complete moron, you complete failure with our kids? It's your record, Tony. And what? Be man enough to come in here and defend your position. I'm challenging you, Tony. Why don't you have your little rosy red rear end right in here, and we'll go for the cows come home. 12, 24, 36 hours, however long you want to do it. See if you can outlast me. Because you piece of trash, you who know the rules, and you went before the Chino Valley School Board, and you got 1 minute to say your piece like every one of our else. When you walk in those school board meetings, you know the rules. You are when you walk, you can be the superintendent of public instruction, but when you walk in there as a private citizen or under public comments like me, Luis Palomares, my dad, or anybody else has for over decades, and you know the rules, you got to abide by them. And you're supposed to set the example. And you could not abide by the rules. She gave you 1 minute, the school board gave you 1 minute, and you wanted more. You wanted to filibuster, you wanted to get out. This is why our education system sucks, Tony, because the kids watch what you do. And you're telling the kids to follow the rules, and you can't. Sheriff Chad's a much better person than I am. That's why I don't think he'll come in here. Because you ain't got guts enough. You don't have integrity enough. To defend your failing positions, your failing work as a superintendent of public instruction, and your failure as a public official to our most precious assets, our kids. And you can't even endorse Prop 36, which starts to fix the mess you and your cohorts have made. Talk about playing politics. You're playing politics with this right now with the if you're working with the legislature, they are trying to kill 36 every which way to Sunday. And like we've said, I think everybody that supports 36, I think Hestron does, we can ask him, Sheriff Chad, we have no problem with the reforms you're coming up to, but why do you got to put a poison pill in there if Prop 36 passes, all that stuff you pass at the legislature goes away? That's the most disingenuous thing I have ever seen. Thurman, any subject, anytime. Especially education. See if you can outdo the 6th grade educated Ditch Bankoki from Edgemont. Challenge is on. Now let's get it on. This is, and we'll probably get into this more tomorrow, but I want to get this first clip in. This is Utah Senator Mike Lee. Mike Lee, great guy. I mean, there's probably a couple things I disagree with him about. This guy's a constitutionalist. He's read the Federalist Papers. He understands how this country should be run in the future to give everyone the best opportunity. I think he might have replaced Orrin Hatch, he wanted Merrick Garland in as Supreme Court Justice. He was on with Tucker Carlson. Like I said, maybe we'll get to more of this tomorrow. I wanted to get this clip in. They had a 2-hour interview. It was great. I mean, we'll go through some of it tomorrow, but if you get a chance to watch this whole interview with that, it's a real education in how the US of A should be functioning. And if we'd listen more to Tucker and Mike Lee and Donald J. Trump, we wouldn't even hear a peep from guys like Tony Thurman, but here we go.
And had a phone in her hand and said, hey, my brother-in-law is a big fan. It's his birthday. Will you say hi to him? This is Biden's signature move. He's really, really good at this. I remember when I first came to the Senate, he would have dinner and other gatherings with senators. He got Pat Toomey's dad on the phone when he found out he had lived in Scranton, and he was like, how the hell are you? This is Joe Biden. I understand you're from Scranton. By the end of it, Pat Toomey's dad and then Vice President Biden felt like they were old fraternity brothers.
I knew Biden, and I remember exactly
Very good at this.
Oh, excellent.
But this woman handed him the phone. It rang. The woman's brother-in-law answered, hello. And then he got a confused look on his face, held out the phone, hung it up, and handed the phone back. Now that for Joe Biden
is
very significant. Very
And this is sitting president of the United States.
Yes, yes. And this was, I believe, a year and a half, perhaps a little more than 2 years ago. So we would see little snippets like this.
That's a big snippet.
And then we would see the clips on TV, which in some ways were worse. I'm still stunned that the media did everything that they could to minimize the significance of this, but still they were caught on camera. They were out there, and they just sort of didn't comment on it, as if we didn't say anything about it, it wasn't real.
So there you go, 2 years. Basically, the reports are coming out now. Since Joe Biden was elected, he's been in this condition. It's just gotten steadily worse in the last 3.5 years. He has not had the mental capabilities probably to be president of the United States since the day he swore and laid his hand on the Bible on January 20th, 2021. Man, oh sakes, are we in deep bandini. Hopefully we'll get into more of the Mike Lee Tucker Carlson interview tomorrow. It's absolutely, it gets into a lot of stuff that's great. And we'll have the part on the education part between Sheriff Chad and Tony Thurmond to boot on that. That is even better. And again, Tony, please come on in. As you know, I've been talking about standing up for our country, doing something. These big box stores stayed open while the little guys closed. Will our voices be heard? Does voting with our dollars work? PatriotSwitch.com gives patriots the power to walk away from the big box stores forever. Stop supporting the enemies of freedom now. That's why PatriotSwitch.com was created, for those who support America. PatriotSwitch.com. Is your car doing the hucklebuck and afraid you will be stuck? Well, head on down to Toyota of San Bernardino, Nissan of San Bernardino, Subaru of San Bernardino, and the San Bernardino Auto Mall, and catch a Camry, look ravishing in a Rogue, or be styling in a Subaru. Don't forget I-10 Toyota in Indio for those of you in the lower desert. You deserve to be the happiest human on the planet. So head on down to one of these 4 great dealerships for the car of your dreams. Spread the word. IE Newswire is now on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 p.m. on Rumble and KMET 1490 AM, 5:30 to 6 p.m. Join all the cool kids who want an eclectic look at the news without all the filters of the evil scoundrels of social media and the despicable dorks of the dominant press. Don't bumble and stumble. Subscribe to IE Newswire on Rumble and roll with the best hillbilly hoedown around. That's it. If you want to buy American, go to PatriotSwitch.com. If you need a new Toyota or Subaru, go to one of Cliff Cummings' great dealerships at San Bernardino Auto Mall at D10. 215 freeways. Don't forget I-10 Toyota down in the lower desert. Man, what a day. All of this stuff going on. And plus, hopefully we'll have a slower news day tomorrow. I definitely want to finish up the Sheriff Chad Tony Thurmond on the education part, and especially get into the Michael Lee Tucker Carlson one, because that some of the stuff of Joe Biden and then how the sausage gets made and what we should be doing in the direction we should be going. It was quite an interesting rendition that those two put together, and we need to listen. More people need to listen to guys like Tucker Carlson and Senator Mike Lee from Utah. Man, we'd be in a lot better place if we looked at things realistically, and that's what they're doing. But hopefully we're ending up this practice Friday. Eddie Shore, you're back here in 23 hours live. We're the best dark show in the world. Until then, see ya.
All right. Have a great night.
You got it.